that I appreciate you guys' support over the years. Today we have a very special guest. I can't wait to introduce this fellow. Very extraordinary person. But I want to say I thank you all for your support over the years. I have been getting messages in my inbox as to some suggestions. I do appreciate all of you reaching out. And I just want to say that remember that we are not like everybody else. We are not just about entertainment. We're about inspiring, motivating, and educating athletes who want to achieve their highest potential in their sport. So I am sure you know of someone who can benefit from the information and the content. So don't be selfish and hold on to the information. I encourage you all to share the information. If you appreciate the content, then you want to subscribe and you want to share. Today we have some interesting things that we are going to talk about. But I have been looking at some of the news and I saw some information that is somewhat troubling to me. Because when I look around and I see a camp like an MVP camp who produce such great athletes, and it seems like they're leaving one at a time, you want to know what is the situation. Now, one of the things I would encourage individuals not to do is to rush to any quick judgment. And the reason why I want to quickly address this issue, because it is something that continuously affects our athletes. And I think that people are just looking at it for what it is without going deeper into trying to figure out what is going on. How can we better help some of these athletes and these coaches? Because if you look at it from a coach's viewpoint, you may feel as if athletes are ungrateful, and you may feel like athletes are not making good decisions for themselves. And if you look at it from the athlete's standpoint, you may also feel like the coach is selfish and greedy, and they want everything and they want to run the show. So I'm saying that it is a time now where we as athletes and coaches and administrators must take a look to see how we can better help not just the athletes, but also the coach. Because the coaches are those who too make sacrifice on behalf of the athletes. And if something is not done, then coaches may feel that there is no reward in what they do, and they may try to get a quick success, hoping that they could capitalize on the athlete's ability quick and fast, because the athlete may choose to go somewhere else. And I know to some people it is not important, but I'm telling you that it is extremely important, because each year an athlete would move from point A to point B, and they think that they're going into a better situation. I was one of those athletes who went into a situation thinking that it was much better, and come to find out that I was worse off than where I actually was. So it is important that athletes have good, competent advisors around them that can help them to make better decisions that can help them to realize and maximize their full potential. I know it is tough, because sometimes we think that it's all about running, but I can tell you that it doesn't matter how talented you are. If you don't make the right choice, chances are you may never realize your full potential. So I know it might be an issue that seems to be reoccurring, and because it's reoccurring, we may think it is not important. But I promise you that if you find yourself in a particular situation like what some of these athletes found themselves in, you may want to know, what is next? What can I do next? What is my best option? And this is why I encourage the athletes and their administrators and their handlers that they must make good decisions so they can experience longevity in the field. Today, I have a very special guest in the studio with me. This is somebody that I know for a long time, from I was in high school. And I find this journalist, sports journalist, award-winning journalist, as someone who is packed with insights. This gentleman has more insights on track and field and sport performance than any normal individual on the road. In fact, when I did my research, my background checking this gentleman, even though I know him for years, it is said that in terms of his knowledge base, his experience, that you will only find a few gentlemen like him, or female sports journalists like him. And to win Sports Journalist of the Year is not something that one should take lightly, because you must put in a whole lot of work in order to achieve such accolades. So before I introduce my guest, as usual, one of the things I normally do is to play an introduction so he knows or she would know that we really appreciate him taking the time. And even though it is Let's Talk with Dr. Greg, tonight is never about me. It's always about the guest and the information that they have to share, not just with me, but with the public on a whole. So before I bring Sean from backstage, I prepared a special introduction that I would like him to see. So let's see that introduction right now.
Trustworthy, accurate, unbiased, and passionate are some of the adjectives I would use to describe the expert and award-winning sports journalist of the year, Sean Grant. With almost 2 decades in the business, Sean is what we call the consummate sports journalist. Sean is an expert at covering netball, cricket, table tennis, soccer, swimming, and his favorite, track and field. With his one-of-a-kind critical analysis and the love for all sports, Sean is one of few sports journalists who was instrumental in introducing KLAS Sports Radio to Jamaica sports fans and to the rest of the world. When he gives his analysis, it is filled with his youthful exuberance and passion. In addition, his number one passion is his willingness to stay committed to keeping his commentaries truthful and unbiased. As a senior broadcaster and a chief commentator for KLAS Sport Radio, Sean has continued to produce exciting and entertaining soccer commentaries for the Jamaica National Premier Soccer League. One of the things I love the most about Sean is that he has never been afraid to share his views on controversial topics. He is spot on and unbiased with his critical analysis, and he is never afraid to expound on what he means. Sean is highly informed and well respected by his peers in all aspects of sports journalism. Sean is one of few sports journalists who has the foresight to see the outcome of an athlete's future, simply because he is aware of the inner workings and possesses the connection that most sports journalists lack. Now is it with great pleasure I present to you a legend in the making, the 2016 Sports Journalist of the Year, Sean Grant.
Hello, Mr. Grant. How are you, sir? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right. So how are you, sir? You know, it's long overdue.
I saw the opening. I don't know where it got so much cuts.
Well, you know, this is something that we normally do because, as I said to you earlier today, that the show is not really about me. The show is about you. Because when we see people working long and working hard in order to convey a message that sometimes people even ignore, I want this show to be about you because you have been working hard and tirelessly, and I don't think people fully acknowledge what you have been doing and how helpful you can be to help them to achieve their full potential. Because if we're talking about somebody who is an expert, chances are you have a whole lot of information that some of us only dream of being exposed to, right?
Correct. I'm floored by the opening, but I hear what you have to say, Gregory. I've known you a long time, but it's not about me. Well, I don't know about you. It's just about the topics at hand.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that, Sean. And one of the things as I said, I find with you that you are not afraid to take on sensitive issues. You know, I look at most of the things that you do and I realize that you have always tried to be honest and objective in terms of your commentaries. And I hope that you will continue to do that, because what we find today is that a lot of athletes, they are not able to fully realize their potential because they are not able to make good decisions along the way. Do you find that to be true based on all the things that you were exposed to in terms of information that you do receive, etc.?
You are correct. You are correct. But when it comes down to, and you have to be very careful. And as a journalist, you have to be extremely careful when you speak issues, because if you want to continue being a journalist, and you have to speak about certain issues solid. However, don't throw persons under the bus. That's very careful, because if you do that, you will not get information again. So although it's great to do that, you come forward with the information that is presented in front of you, because you can't come with hearsay. So you have to come with some information that's presented in front of you that person will say, not no go so. You can't do that, because you'll get egg in the face all the time. So you have to do that. And when you do that, nobody can say A or nay about you.
Well, you know, I want the world to know this, because not a lot of people know that we went to school together and that you are an Excelsorian, and you were actually the captain for the hockey team that we are on. And everywhere I go, people who are on that team, they remember that spectacular goal that Greg Hartman scored. And no, so nobody knew that I had the talent to play hockey. But the question I want to ask you today, did you have the slightest of aspiration to be a journalist when you were a youth? And if not, what led you in that direction?
Let me say this about aspirations. I don't know what's happening with the Wi-Fi, but let me say this with the aspirations. I loved journalism from I was a youngster, and that's being honest. However, at that time, and persons are going to know my age, if you know that I went to school with Gregory, um, that there was JBC, the only television station around, and there was two radio stations around. But I loved sports and I loved journalism. The two things I loved, which I did a lot of sports, and I love to read and stuff. But I wanted to be a journalist though. But at that time, I think I was a bit coward. Coward in the sense of every time you turn on the television or you hear some youngsters talk, everybody wants to be a journalist. And at that time, with one television station and two radio stations, he said, "Nah, man, too much people want to jump into that." So no, that was not for me. But the thing about it, while being at that school, my school, Excelsior High, while I did literature, and I remember this teacher, Miss Davy, she form and fifth form literature teacher, and she always wanted me to read, and I always declined at first. And when eventually, I decided to read after long, long talks and classes, and I started to read. I remember reading the first passage. I think it was Old Story Time, that book. And after reading that, she looked at me and I said, "Boy, Miss my good man, so I read that now." She said, "Sean, why is it that you don't want to read in front of the class?" And every single day from that fourth form to fifth form, I read in that literature class. I always read the last 15 minutes of the class. And she would say to me, "Why you act like you don't want to read when you're reading, it seems like you want to read?" That's what she said. And before my tenure at Excelsior was finished, she looked at me and said, "Why don't you do journalism?" I said, "Well, I miss no." See, at the time I was a happy child. I know, miss. Not gonna wait there. Although I wanted to do it, it's funny. I wanted to do it. She saw something in me that I should do it, but I didn't think I was good enough. And it's something is that you'll be surprised. I did not think I was good enough because I was watching Linda Della Penna on television. Then it was Long, all those persons on the television, Ali McNabb, and I did not think I was good enough. But my teacher, who I read for every single day or every time I went to literature class, thought I was good enough. But I did not. And because I didn't think I was good enough, it was my choice not to even try to pursue it. So I didn't even go into that venture when I left school.
Well, it's for most people, what others see in us, we normally don't see in ourselves. And this is why it is always good to have people in your corner who are honest and knowledgeable, trustworthy. So when they share information with you, it may take some time to fully believe in yourself, but at least you can trust what they say. And the reason why this is important, because today's discussion, a part of it has to do with we as athletes and how we trust and who we should trust and why we should trust. And we're going to cover that. But I'm curious. I want to hear your perspective on something, because even though it's been a while, I've been saying this for over 3 years now. The Olympic came, it's gone. The women on a whole did exceptionally well. They represented their country well. We are all proud of them. But when I look back, I saw a negative trend where the men, especially the sprinters, that they were falling off, and it was falling off in a rapid state. How do you feel about how our male sprinters performed at the recent Olympics? And do you see this trend continuing, or do you see them lifting their game up at a higher level?
No, this is a touchy subject, but you have to be real with this subject. The men, more so than the women, are indisciplined. And let's break it down. And why I say that. Now, when you have youngsters going to high school, they are tutelaged and they are monitored. And men and women, and girls and boys, they're monitored in what they eat, how they eat, when they eat, what to take, by all coaches on that track and field team. Now, I've been to different track and field clubs and different track and field schools. I said track and field schools, schools with track and field programs. And I see how the coaches work with respective athletes, and they have major respect for the coach at that time when they're young. Now, the problem is with these so-called high school stars or these junior stars, the problem with that is the discipline sort of wanes somewhat when they leave high school to that next level, whether going to tertiary or whether going on a professional rank. It's worse to the professional rank, because when you're on your own, you don't have that or those individuals around you when you're at school to guide you, to watch out for you, to see what to eat, what you don't eat. And it's worse for the professional athletes. When they start to make money, it gets interesting. When they start to make money, when they leave high school and having high school intelligence, it's not the greatest thing, to be honest, if you don't have the right people around you, if you don't have the right team around you. Because majority of the top athletes who have won at Caribta or around 10-1 at high school or 10-2 at high school, you don't see them matriculating, because when they go into that professional ranks, and I'm referring to the individuals who go to in the professional ranks, when you go into that professional ranks, nobody monitors you in the night. So you get a little bit of cash that you did not have before. That's the first thing. You're not used to that. So you're used to mommy telling you to go to bed. You're used to coach say, "You have to go to bed now," or sometime camp there. No, you're not in a camp environment. You're on your own environment. So you have to be making those decisions for you. And it's the first time you're in that realm. And with some cash in your pocket, so guess what? You're going to put on weight because you're going to eat late. You know, discipline for majority of the men. You're going to do this. You're going to buy a car. When you're supposed to come training, you don't. How mommy could have taught you before, or daddy could have taught you before, you're not taking the heat because you have money in your pocket. Those are the facts. Those are the facts. The facts is because they're not used to that lifestyle. When it reaches them, there's nobody there to guide them. And persons who are guiding them sometimes, and I use the term guide, and same like what Stephen Francis said, the bandwagonist, some of those individuals come on and actually don't help you. They don't tell you to buy you if you go to bed. They are partying with you. Because I know athletes, young athletes, who actually were outstanding as a youngster and went on when they're supposed to, come out and in the professional ranks, even at a good time, they did not. And if you looked around their circle, you saw, you heard that a party was here last night. This individual keep the party. He was here. You go out as an individual and see these individuals out. And they
So
don't
are
know.
you saying
They see
that they
Usain
are
Bolt doing this and that, but they don't know. It's not high school anymore. You're saying, Gregory?
so is it fair to say then that is either they are ignorant to what it takes to be successful, or they were just not properly prepared for the know-how in order to do what it takes in order to be successful? And if that's the case, whose duty is it to educate them that these are some of the terrains that you may need to travel, and these are some of the things that you may need to do? Whose duty is it to educate them so they are prepared for what is to come?
Whose job it is to properly prepare them to be a professional? You're at school. Think about this. You're at school. The money coming into that school program is for that athlete performing for that school, for the school to have glory, and it's provided more so by the old boys more so than anything else. Old boys or old girls are past students, so they want to see that athlete perform well for that specific school, whether girl or boy. Mm-hmm. So the program is designed for school, not to be a professional. So the school can take to be responsible for an individual, train them to say, okay, we're going to set your mind to be a professional. In fact, I interviewed Anisha McLaughlin-Wilby recently. And in that interview, she pointed out that while she was at Homewood Technical, trained by Maurice Wilson, she said that the type of training and how they did things set her at an easy light when she went into the professional ranks, because they were training her in that way. But that's the physical aspect of it. The physical. And most schools would have that. But then there's the mental. A lot of the schools are not preparing the students to be a professional. They're not. Why should they? To be honest, why should they? It's not their responsibility. They can do that if they want to, but they are planning for their next year's program. Once this is a set of core athletes they want to get scholarship for, they provide them with that platform to do that, or you want to go to professional. But then there's a next level. The question now beckons, who is responsible for that, or those individuals who are the top athletes, to actually, if you decide to go on a professional level or a professional platform, who is going to prepare you mentally for that? And if you're not the top athlete to get the big bucks, because you can be a top athlete like Usain Bolt, right? And at that time you started out as a professional, you have a flurry of persons around you as a team. That's good. But there are a lot more athletes who's gone the professional ranks who are not necessarily talented as Bolt, and they won't have that. They will have a contract, but the contract is a small contract, and they want to start out and get bigger. But they don't have those individuals. They can't afford those individuals around them. But I'm to those individuals. Who's responsible now for those individuals to try to guide them mentally?
Well, I have said it on numerous occasions, Sean, that I consider the athletes a vulnerable population. And a vulnerable population means that they never had a certain structure in place on their own. So they are not able to make the best of decisions for themselves. And as a result, the burden falls on someone else in order to help to prepare them. Now, at some point, you do have to let them go so they can walk on their own. But if we can identify all these issues, whose job is it to help them to understand what is needed in order for them to achieve their full potential? That is the biggest concern. And it doesn't seem to me that someone believes that they truly need the help. And this is not a dictatorship where you force a person to do what is in their best interest. But this is where the education comes in, because, and this is why I build this platform, because it is my hope that people will listen to the experts like you, and they would understand what they need to do if somebody else on their team not doing it. But since we're on this topic, a few years ago, you shared an interview with me, and the interview had Nathan Allen and Akeem Bloomfield. And at the time you interviewed them, they were about to leave college and they were thinking, well, they already made the decision to go pro. Now, how do you feel about their development over the years and where these two guys are right now?
Nathan Allen, first and foremost, before I speak on Akeem Bloomfield, Nathan Allen is someone I looked out for. Um, Danny Hawthorne was his coach at St. Jago High School, and I asked Danny Hawthorne about him before he actually ran that first 400 meters behind Donkey Man, as person would say, when he placed second. But Nathan Allen is a talented individual, which I expected from St. Jago High School. When he runs, he looks better than you, Gregory. He floats, he glides on the 400 meter. I like him. He's steps high. He bounces. I like to see this young man run. I liked it. From I saw him at St. Jago, and I remember going to Stadium East and watching him train before. And Danny Hawthorne said to me, "Look out for this guy. Look out for this guy," as he always does. And I did. And I remember that race. And I after that race, I paid keen attention to this individual. And following year was like Bloomfield coming through, and he was second again. But the thing about it, that he is talented. He is extremely talented. Effortless, he runs 44. Effortless, he runs 44. So I was expecting, in fact, during that time, when I looked on the year before, coming through the years after, I said that Jamaica is going to go back to 1948, 52 in the 400 meters at how we were, because we had a flurry of youngsters coming through that I think were, and now looking to 43. That at that time, that was my long range plan, long-term plan, long goal plan at that time. Bloomfield, on the other hand, I don't think he likes 400 meters. I've never thought he likes it. That's my biggest thing. The thing about it, when I spoke to Bloomfield for the first time, and when persons heard about Bloomfield, he ran 10.5 in class 2 or class 3 at Jamaica College, the field that goes down. And yes, Mr. At that time, he was a sprinter. Then after that, he had some issues, and in terms of interest. And then when a new coach from Monroe came to Kingston College, and I went to Kingston College to do some interviews before champs, and I asked the coach what event is he going to do, because I saw him run 400 meters, and the coach laughed and said nothing. I went to Bloomfield and I said, "What are you going to do?" He said 200. So I saw him run 400 and he looked good. I said, "Boy, coach is preparing me for the 200." 2 weeks before champs, he ran a blistering 400 meters. I went down at the National Stadium. I went down to the track and I interviewed him. I said, "You still think you're running 200 meters at champs?" He said, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." At that time, they call everybody sir. They don't know. They don't know. But he said, "Yes, sir." So I went back to the coach and I said, "Coach, what him running?" And him laugh and then gone. At champs, he ran the 400 meters. But in his mind, though, mentally, I think he loves the 200. He wants to do the 200. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, he had some issues in terms of injuries whenever the power comes from his legs. So I think the coach wanted to do that. What the coach worked on that specific year, and I had to mention that, was his core. He says his core was weak, and he worked on his core for that entire season, and he was brilliant. Went on the 45 seconds at champs. Great. Now he has gone to college. Ran the first year, got beaten. Ran the second year, got beaten. But they're second and third, both of them. I was not expecting them to leave college now, when they have 2 more years under their belts. And they were in a good program. They were improving, but I was never expecting them to leave. When they came to Jamaica and I interviewed them in the studios at KLS, I was disappointed, to be honest. But I can't tell them that, I'm disappointed. No. But I interviewed both of them, and they wanted to be professionals. They wanted to go that ranks. I don't know, though, to be honest, in terms of guidance, what they had around them, because it didn't seem solid. When you're in a college setting, it's solid. Everything is there for you. And you should know, Gregory. Everything is there for you. No, you're on your own. You're professional. You have to look things for yourself or get somebody to plan for you. And I don't think they were in that mind frame to do that. And because of that, the talent have somewhat, I mean, injuries have told, emotional stress has told, but still, I am disappointed.
So if we can narrow it down to a factor that caused them not to realize their full potential, what would you say that factor is?
Guidance. Guidance. You have to simply say guidance. And person and to be honest, they had a good person around them. And sometimes you can't have the best person around you. Who do you follow? That's the thing. Because the individual who carried them to the station is a very good man. I know him and he can guide them well. But I don't think they took his words though. So that is one thing. So you can have the persons around you in your team to give you the right information, to show you the right way, but you decide not to take it. And I think that is one of the reasons for both of them. Because I have a lot of admiration for both. However, I'm a bit disappointed. And if Nathan Allen say, okay, I give up, I'm frustrated, I give up. That would be a major talent going down the drain, to be honest. Because let me stop you there. Sherika Jackson, in an interview earlier this season, said she was fed up because of some lingering injury before she exploded. So if she had a camp one place and give up, then you would not see Sherika Jackson exploits this year. So if it is that Nathan Allen or Bloomfield just decides I can't bother with this, gives up, it's two major talents will be gone. They have to find somebody that is actually, and I said they have to find someone who can guide them, who they will listen to, because maybe, just maybe, persons who are telling them the right thing, they're not listening to them.
I think right now, Akeem has decided to go to Tumbleweed, and I think Nathan Allen is still trying to find a home. And this is a sad thing to know that they had so much promise and they're not able to find themselves in a comfortable position now. If they're not listening now, I'm sure they will listen later. But what suggestions would you give them, both of them now, so they can at least know that we genuinely care and we want the best for them? What would you tell them?
Let me tell you this. The suggestion I'll give them is just work hard and try to make the right choice. All right. There are individuals around, and they're no fools. They're bright, young individuals. There are individuals around that can assist them. There are individuals around that can help them and make the right choice for them. And sometimes what I've seen from Nathan, he's iffy sometimes and he doesn't know that. But if he has the right person, and they have to make the right choice in selecting the right individuals around them. So they have to look right, look what is needed for them. They know what's needed for them. They're good enough and they're old enough to know what's needed for them. And it's not talent wasted just yet. It's not talent wasted just yet. They have some time on their hands. They can do wonderful things, and I still think they have it in them to do that. They have to make a choice. No, they have to make a choice to select an individual, because there are a lot of persons around them, and then to work with that individual to make a choice going forward. They have to do that. They have to get some guidance of persons, maybe like you, I don't know, a person who have been there, who knows the right thing to do, who knows the rope. They have to fight like that to take them out of the doldrums, what they are now, and carry them forward, because they can do it.
Well, I hope they will take your advice. As you said, it is something that they must do for themselves. Recently, Stephen Francis made a statement that is in the public view, and he said that you have a lot of athletes with low expectations, and these athletes with low expectations are easily influenced by bandwagonists. Some people may not know what bandwagonists are. Could you give us a definition of bandwagonists, and could you also share with us how bandwagonists can either hurt or help an athlete career?
Well, a bandwagonist can help and can also destroy. A bandwagonist is someone who joins on the rolling train. The rolling train may have flooded money, or you don't know, or just a limelight. and just start to do this, do that. Not there from the foundation. But some bandwagonists are good. I'm going to be honest. Some bandwagonists are good because some will come with the right information. If you need to get over a hurdle, they'll come with the right information to give you for you to clear that hurdle, for you to go forward in whatsoever decision you're making. Some bandwagonists are good. However, majority are not, to be honest. Now, what Stephen Francis said, he's absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct. A lot of persons, because I said it earlier, because of high school going to matriculation to senior ranks or professional ranks. But a lot of individuals, when they start make a little bit of money, and I'm not pointing fingers to anyone, not even in the just every athletes in general, once they start making money, it's a problem in terms of how to control them, because they're going to have talk, and you're not saying the coach should control them, but in terms of telling them what to do. Because don't get me wrong, Usain Bolt was not easy for Glenn Mills to actually have him under his handle. It was difficult, extremely difficult, but Usain knew when to actually come and put it together. But for some athletes, they're not talented as Usain Bolt. So when they fool themselves and do things like that, guess what? It's a problem. It becomes a problem. So because you're making a little bit of cash now, for some athletes, it's difficult to them because they're there, they have reached. So it's more difficult to talk to them. So they forgot where they're coming from. And then they go to some individuals who, when they're disagreeing with the coach or management, some of those individuals, this bandwagon is coming now, the negative aspect, those individuals to say that a true coach attack, or say, sorry, pardon me, a true attack, a rubbish coach attack. So they're agreeing with you. So you have strength with the bandwagonists who are leading you the wrong way. That's how the negative bandwagonists come on. Because once you're disagreeing with the coach or management, I'm not saying they're saying the right thing or whatsoever, but once you have an individual now hearing what's happening, or you relate to him or her what's happening, and they say to you, yeah, man, if you do that, man, if you do that, me and you, Ferrari, they start to actually carry your mind astray of what took you there. And that's very, very important. Those are the negative bandwagonists. And those are the individuals that carry individuals or athletes or anybody astray by just agreeing with you. So you get somebody who is on your side, the green light with you, and your coach chatting rubbish. And that's what carry you astray majority of times.
Well, without a doubt, Sean, Jamaica has a huge bandwagonist culture. It's in everywhere. Football, cricket, you name it, it is there. And I know that some of the bandwagonists, they are influential enough where they can push back on what is best for the athletes. And as the low expectation will influence them more than somebody who wants their best interest at heart. But do you think we should maybe create some educational program that can help some of these athletes to be more aware as to how to deal with bandwagonists who may end up hurting them?
And this goes back to our earlier argument about preparation for the athlete's future. Now, I asked the question earlier on, before I even answered that question, about who is responsible to prepare the athletes mentally. And from once the athletes are prepared mentally, the bandwagonists will go by the wayside. Now, nothing is wrong with moving from one place to the next. If you don't think A is working for you, try B and see what will happen. But it has to be a good reason. In terms of education lies on whose part. I think, and this is my suggestion, I think the J3s, like what they have done or what they did, because I don't think they're doing it as much now or doing it at all now, what they did in the past for the junior athletes. The junior athletes, where they have the junior athletes, they don't prepare them mentally. They prepare them for the World Championship. They'll have some group meetings, they'll have different things, prepare them to talk, prepare them how to act. They had the past. It's important on Jamaica's part in the long run. This is the reason why. An athlete don't have the education, may not to be too bright, is very talented. And because talented with a particular team may leave and go to someone else because they're weighed that way, they're swayed that way, and then their performance goes down. Now it hurts the athlete and it hurts the country. Two things. So I think, in my mind, and I didn't say it earlier, but I think what I think J3A should do, they should have an arm that to educate young athletes going into the professional ranks. It may cost them a little money. It won't be hard, but they could have, even that's a start, a platform of having some classes or something like that for persons who are interested, or for clubs to carry those athletes and to work out different things with them. Once a year, twice a year, one instructor, one person to work with them. I know individuals will give their time for free. The J3s could actually, under their umbrella, could coordinate it, and they will get sponsors. They would get sponsors, maybe not major sponsors, but they get sponsors too. And that would help the youngsters actually think different when they go to respective camps. And by doing so, it will help Jamaica in the long run, because they won't, what can I say now? Their talent won't go by the wayside. It won't go by the wayside. And in turn, that will help the country. So Gregor, you have to think about the country in the long term. And yes, in terms of when they make money, the argument is going to be they're going to be individual clubs. So when they learn that they want to make money on the circuit, but they're still going to represent the country nevertheless. There are different championships. There are global championships. There are regional championships. So it's a win-win situation for everybody.
Well, you see, Sean, sometimes it seems as if when the athlete is not able to make good decisions, that it benefits everyone. Because when you look at what the athletes receive in return, that everybody else seems to be advancing themselves except the athletes. So it is concerning as to in a situation like this, why others may push back. But this is one of the reasons why we have the program here, because we're hoping that even the president of the J3 and JOA, that they would hear some of the things that concern people like you and myself, have, that if these things are implemented, that they would not just help the athletes, but they will help the coach, they will help the club, they will help the country. I want to say this, since we're on the topic of Bandwagonist, because recently we saw where Elaine Thompson-Herah performed spectacularly in the recent Olympics. She now is in a position where, because of her performance and accomplishments, that you have a lot of wannabe expert advisors who are flocking in her direction. And I'm sure when Stephen Francis made that point, he was indirectly talking about Elaine. That is my opinion based on what he was saying. But based on where you sit and based on the information that you receive, do you think it is a good time for Elaine to part ways with her club right now?
All right. Let me say this. Shannon Fraser-Pryce left the club and came back, and then she left again. Now, is it the right time for her to leave? Judging by her performances this year, judging by what the coach said in terms of his athlete, Elaine Thompson-Herah, is in the greatest form of her life. He said that at the start of this season, and persons watched her coming third. But after that, what an explosion it was after that. What an explosion it was after that. You saw her getting better. When they moved their camp to Italy, you saw her getting better on the circuit. Then it was Olympics. Then it was after. You saw her. And then after that season, you're going to say, and I'm just speaking in general, you've gotten better. You've gotten better to a world record, or 2 world records where persons thought that it was unbeatable. But by your performances this year, yourself and Shannon Fraser-Pryce, they think that you can attain that. And also, Shelley, can attain that world record, which persons about 3 years ago were saying that the record can never be beaten. Let's abolish it and let's move away from it. But persons are saying different now. So after those performances, you're going to think, any will think that she's coming back to MVP next season. But the greatest thing is that we don't know what happened behind the scenes. So I can't answer that question, is it the right thing for her to do? Because sometimes an athlete wants to feel comfortable. Sometimes an athlete wants to feel comfortable. They make their decisions based on what is happening behind the scenes. I am not there. So I can't say that it was the right decision to make. But what I can say is that based on her performances this year, you think that it's not. You think that she should not make that decision. You think that she should stay at MVP because she may get better this year. Because remember, she has an Achilles problem. I think that in 2020, because of no competition, she got a chance to rest that Achilles. And because of that rest, she exploded this year. She has had that Achilles problem for years. So you expect now, after the first year, a second explosion could be better based on the same program that is put to her by Coach Stephen Francis. If she goes to a next coach, the program changes. And change of a program may actually slow you down. Tweak of a program may carry you up. But if you go to a completely different coach, that may be devastation for you. But you still don't know what was the reason. If that, hold on, Jerry, you still don't know what's the reason that decision was made. If it was made, and we're saying if it was made, because she said it's rumors. So if it was made, you don't know why that decision was made. And if it is that you have to leave because you're not comfortable, nothing is wrong with that decision.
And that's what I said earlier too, that we don't know what's going on behind the scene, but I am hoping that whatever decision that she makes, that it will be one that put her in equally or a better position than where she is right now. I was listening to some interviews recently, and I saw where, even in Elaine's case, she was saying that she did not know she was that talented. And I knew that Frano or Stephen Francis has an eye for talent like an Elaine Thompson. But it seemed like not a lot of athletes or not a lot of coaches have that level of eye to spot the talent. And because they don't have that eye, you find that they may put all their eggs in one basket, and those athletes never materialize because of the fact that maybe they just didn't have the longevity. But do you think that there should be some special training for our coaches in terms of being able to identify the talent, select the talent, and nurture the talent? Do you think, based on where we're going now, especially with the male, that we need coaches who can identify, select, and fully nurture the talent?
All right. Two things to that, though. You live in the United States where you have scouts. I have scouts all around. You have scouts where persons get paid to actually, whichever sporting discipline it is, whether it's for NFL, whether it's for baseball, there's basketball. You have scouts that go around the world, and even for football. You have scouts that go around the world, scouts for colleges, scouts for professional ranks. These individuals are trained. Although they have the experience, these scouts are trained. They are trained to actually look out for some special thing, whatsoever it is. You have some coaches in Jamaica which have that knack. I've spoken to coaches who can spot talent, and they use different things to do that. Now, they haven't received formal training to scout, but they have received formal training to look at athletes to see how they can develop. It's tricky, You look at, as a coach, you look at an athlete to say, okay, biometrics, you see the athlete running, and you work it out, so okay, I can make this individual better. It's almost like scouting, but not scouting. In scouting, you go a little bit in depth. So a lot of the coaches in Jamaica have that talent. But not everybody is good at it. Let's just say that. Say, for instance, Stephen Francis. You mentioned Elaine. Hold on. You mentioned Elaine. And Paul Francis actually saw Elaine. I think Paul is a very good scout. Saw Elaine a long time before she even went to Manchester High School, which I think Garlogia or something like that, all age back in Manchester. He saw her a long time at Kirkvine. Persons, Maurice Wilson with Anisha McLaughlin Wilby did not run an individual race at the All Ireland Primary Championships, but he saw her run a relay leg, and Simone Facey run a relay leg, and he recruited both. Simone Facey left, didn't stay at Homewood, left and went to technical. Of individual coaches who can spot talent, Keelan Goburn is one who saw a special class 4 athlete. She's still in school now, so I'm not mentioning her name. A special class 4 athlete that went to San Diego, and I saw her at Primary Champs. I was at Primary Champs, and I saw the girl, and she was outstanding. But what he said, not running fast times, that's not what scouting is about. Mm-hmm. Yes, somebody can run fast times. And a lot of the coaches see individuals who run fast times, but they look for different things. When running fast times, whatever event it is, or jumps or anything, or hurdles. They look to see, okay, that individual has a credible time, but if I tweak this, if I get this stride pattern, if I do this, they can work that out. Now, sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but sometimes it does. Because a lot of the athletes, some of the athletes from MVP camp, they weren't the top stars at high school. They weren't. Mm-hmm. And it's because of scouting why they are there where they are now. But the thing about it is that sometimes you may get it right, and sometimes you may get it wrong. And because of different reasons surrounding the athlete or surrounding the circumstances.
You know, I had one of your colleagues here, Leighton Levy, and I saw even with Mr. Mills, Glenn Mills, talking about funding, because he believes that funding has been the major culprit that prevent much of these athletes who may demonstrate that promise that you see in high school, but they are struggling to make the transition into the pros. And we can say that there's a correlation between adequate funding and great performance. No funding, you don't get a whole lot of excellent performances. Is there a way where we can fix this dark reality where we do something to help some of these promising athletes transition to the next level, especially some of those late bloomers who may never get another opportunity at it?
Now, this is tricky. I spoke to an individual who passed this year, who went to Excelsior High. He's a national record holder in the 880 yards or 800 meters, a national junior record holder. Never mind. One thing Nevermind preached while he was at their technical assisting: nutrition. I asked him about Veronica Campbell Brown. And he said when he reached there, Veronica Campbell was competing for very technical. However, I said, what was the difference between her performances class 3 or class 2 to class 1? And he said one thing: nutrition. What Glenn Mills said is absolutely correct. When you're in a program which provides well, like some high schools, not all high schools, and you get that nutrition because it's provided to you, you do well at champs. When you are not the top athlete and you don't get any contract or anything like that, and you're turning a professional, you're out there on your own, who provides that nutrition? Who should provide that nutrition, though? And that's a very tedious question. Who should provide that nutrition? Now, I can look at the J3s and say, you should, but why? You see, the first word is Jamaica. Now, there are a lot of athletes out there, there are respective camps, who are professionals who are not that great. Where the money should come from to provide nutrition for all those athletes who have gone on to the professional ranks. That's
Well,
tedious. I'm going to be
yes.
honest. That's tedious because you're not talking about 5 or 10. And we're talking about you have a lot of track clubs now in Jamaica coming up all over the place. Are we going to get it from the government? Are we going to get it from J3? Because J3, I don't think J3 can manage that aspect. I wouldn't point to them. They need to do that. Or the clubs who are struggling. Some of the clubs are struggling. Not all clubs are, but some of the clubs are struggling. And if you don't have a contract, you're not getting the right nutrition you need to have in your body for you to perform at a high level consistently.
Well,
And where the nutrition comes from, or where that funding comes from, I don't know if the government should have a next lottery or anything like that. I don't know. But I would more so look to the government with the J3s because they need help and they need help fast.
well,
And
you
some
see,
of them
Sean,
are dying. I mean,
this is why I
go ahead.
label that group as a vulnerable population, because we know 100% for sure that these individuals who make up the group, they cannot survive on their own. You may have 1 or 2 who are talented enough where they can get people who are willing to invest in them, but a majority of them are not able to survive on their own. And this is why the leaders, the JOA, the J3A, the government, ISA, they all have to come together if they are serious about using what they have in terms of our natural resources to bring out the best in our athletes. Because one of the things you will also find is that we are not the only one benefit, the country benefit, and we are also able to take some of these individuals out of poverty. But here's one question I want to ask you though, because now we have a new president in office, a J3A president in office. What do you think we should expect from him and his team in terms of helping the athletes develop?
That's one thing, and that's Mr. Garth Gale. And there are a lot from he has been in the office, there are a lot of talks going around himself and the GOA and all of that. He has a hard task at hand. Hard. What he has inherited is legacy. A legacy of the men's track and field team, not performance right now, just legacy. He has to find a way and has to have camps. Camps was the word I was looking for. He has to have camps as they did with the youngsters, with the seniors. So the promising ones, who you think are promising, and some will be left behind because you can't help everybody. You have to put them in camps. I mean, work with their coaches. When I say camps, work with their coaches. Now, the government, and I left this out, the government actually gives money every now and again to athletes, and that's a good thing. But they want more, and it's not to all athletes either. So they want more from the government. But the thing about it, Garth Gale has a tremendous amount of water to carry across a bridge with only having 2 sticks when it comes on to the male. The women, fine. But the men, to improve that, he has to sit down because they need, right now, for me, it's in crisis mode. They need coaches right now to work with the coaches to see what they want, to see how their athletes can improve. What do they need? How can we be accessible to you guys for your program to get better, for the athletes to get better? They have to have meetings, and after meetings, actions with respective clubs in the island, and keep in touch with individuals out of the island to see how they can improve their livelihood or improve what's been presented in front of them for their performances to get better. Mm-hmm. You have to look in that direction because that's your responsibility. You're responsible for track and the field and track and field personnel with performances. And you want to make your performances get even better. I don't know why it's like coming out on me. I think my foot is moving too much. But for you to do that, you have to go into crisis mode, organize meetings with the coaches, with respective clubs, and then see what they need. Give them what they need if you can, and then work alongside them. Don't stop there. work alongside them. Because right now, the men's sprinting is down in the dumps. But you hope it gets better because you see some glimpses around the island and beyond. But all you see glimpses, rest of the countries are going away from us. And we want to go back there. We want to go back there. But you know what's funny though? You know what's funny? Usain Bolt went to his first Olympics back in 2004. All right, nobody remembers. 2008, I mean, Glenn Mills took over right after that. But 2008, he exploded. But if you check the results of 2008, take away, and this is it, take away Usain Bolt's medals. How many medals would Jamaica have gotten at these Olympics or World Championships when he has won 3 gold medals? And don't get me wrong, don't say that they're not talented, because Nesta Carter, Michael Frater, Johan Blake, Asafa Powell, all of them are talented. But in terms of the gold medal, how many persons would have won that gold medal? I mean, we talk about sprinting in Jamaica, we're the sprinting capital. How many persons would have won gold if Usain Bolt wasn't there? How many gold would we have won? 2? 3? Think about it. Think about it. So yes,
this is how I look at
Usain
it,
Bolt is absolutely phenomenal. Go ahead.
This is how I look at it. This is how I look at it, Sean. Because I know that talent means nothing if you don't make the right decisions, if you don't have the right support, and if you don't have the right guidance.
Right.
And one of the things I kept saying over and over, that one of the things that made Usain Bolt successful is not just his talent, but he has a network of people around him who give him information in a timely manner, and he's receptive to the information. So what we're saying here is that they have to put a structure in place. So those individuals who are falling through these cracks and the individuals who are not making it at all, that they have an opportunity to make it. So if there is no structure in place, then we can say that it is really doomsday. Now, I'll give you the last question and then you can go home. And we can all have, because I want you to...
Hold on, before you go to the last question.
Sure.
Before we go to the last question, the thing about Usain Bolt is that he had a team around him, and you're right. He could afford a team around him. The individuals, because when he was 15, Didcell came on early, but and then other persons, and then Puma, and then other persons came on. But the thing about it, that individuals out there, other athletes out there, can't afford that team, and that's where the problem lies, because they could be good as, maybe not as Usain Bolt, but as good as making the final and getting a medal, and maybe winning, but not, or maybe a world record. But the thing about it, if they don't have those individuals to assist as Usain Bolt had, it's a totally different thing. That's where we need to use the association or the government to come on board.
Well, the conversation now is getting extremely interesting, and I wanted to let you out, but you want to stay with me, and if you stay with me, I'm going to ask more questions. I've interviewed a lot of athletes. I've trained with Michael Johnson. I know what Donovan Bailey was doing. I saw what Merlin Ottey was doing. And I went all the way back to see why some athletes are successful and others are not. It's just like how you feel about Akeem Bloomfield. I feel that Akeem Bloomfield is the best 400-meter athlete Jamaica would ever see based on his talent. But it comes back down to the guidance, and it comes back down to the decisions that the athletes would make. And then it comes back down to how receptive the person is to the decision. Now, when I look at Usain Bolt's situation, he had the package, not just in terms of his talent, but as I said before, he was receptive to the information. And some of the things that you say about even Akeem and Nathan, it is obvious that they are not always receptive to information that can make a difference in their lives. And this is why we have this platform, because what we're trying to do is to get athletes to understand that it is more than just the physical talent. One of the things that Stephen Francis said
All right.
in terms when he was making some suggestions about Elaine. He said that it would take a strong person, an intelligent person, to be able to keep off the wagonness in terms of the information that they are getting. But you don't have a lot of those strong individuals out there. And this is why I am urging those who are in leadership position that it cannot be just developing the physical talent, but you have to make sure that the education in terms of how one should make good decisions and the team of people that they need to have around them in order to be successful. So it comes back to what you're saying.
Let me say this. And you're right. Let me say it. Hold on. A lot of the athletes now who are top athletes. I know of a lot of these athletes got along the way, got help from individuals who wanted nothing back in return. But a lot of the other athletes are not that lucky. I'm going to be honest. A lot of the athletes are not that lucky. But some athletes got help along the way, because some athletes did not come from a housing project up in the hills. Some athletes come from the inner city and they need help, and got help from individuals not looking anything back in return. I know of a lot of the top athletes who have got assistance along the way. And they were the lucky ones.
I totally agree. I totally agree, because I am one of them who got help along the way. And this is why I am passionate about what I do, Sean, because I was receptive to the information that was being offered to me. You see, when we talk about bandwagonist influence, a lot of times the athletes find themselves in a compromising position because they are not able to think on their own. They're not able to think their way through these things. And this is why the first step I think those leaders should take, whether it is the government or it is the J3A, that they must make sure that there's an educational program intact that can teach us what we need to do and enforce these things. It's a strong word in terms of enforcing, but in order for the athletes to be a champion like Usain Bolt, I think that we are focused too much on the physical talent and not their level of IQ in terms of how they should think and the things that they should do and the person that they must be in order to be that champion first. I'll give you the final thought and then I'll ask you my final question.
You're right.
So here's my final question.
You're right in terms of that, though, because I'm agreeing with you regarding responsibilities. I'm agreeing with you regarding responsibility and who should take on that mantle, and because someone should take it on. And you're right in terms of you getting help, other athletes got help, but there should be a program. There should not be an individual. What I was alluding to, there should not be an individual that comes up and says, may I help the person? May I help the person? You know, so the person that needs some help, may I help the person? There should be a program that is there, more so a government or a country program to assist athletes, for persons to go around and to take notation of what an athlete need, or does this athlete really need it? Because some athletes will say they need it and don't. So not to just give out things like that. So there should be a program done by the J3s with the government working together to do that. That's the only way, because it's difficult. It's difficult. We know everybody say we're a third world country. Listen to me now. It's not a foolishness now. So it can be done. It can be done.
You see, it's all about organization, and structure, and it's all about the planning aspect of it, and it's also about the sincerity. But this is my final question, because recently I saw where the JOA and their partner Supreme Venture and Mayberry, they made an announcement that they are going to invest $41 million in Athletes Achievers Fund. It's the first time they're doing this. I am pretty surprised that it is the first time something like this is in place. The announcement was made August the 11th. It's almost 3 months now. I have not heard anything from them. I've not seen anything. So and they didn't put a time slot as to when they're going to make the announcement. They just said that a press conference is coming. Do you have any information at all? Do you know anything about this 41 million in terms of Achievers Fund for the athletes?
No. 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 That question should be posed not to me, because a lot of persons have asked that question, though, to be honest. But no, I haven't heard of it. We've been waiting to see what's happening there. That announcement was great, though, to be honest. That announcement was unbelievable. But we're waiting to see what happens next. Yeah, it has been some time since that announcement was made, but we're still waiting to see what happens next. It's a tricky situation, and that's all I stand at.
Well, Sean, once again, I thank you for coming on the program. Your information is very valuable. I really hope that those who were on and those who will watch it will definitely promote this video, because for me, it's not about the hype. It's about someone stepping up and doing things that can help the athletes. And one of the reasons why I take on this approach and this position, because I remember when Herb McKinley, that he reached out to me, and I felt that him doing that for me, that I too have to do my best to help some of those athletes who have the talent, but they may lack the guidance and the support. So I thank you. I hope this is not your last time. It might be the first, but I really look forward to having you on this program again. And I really appreciate you taking the time to hanging out with me on a Sunday evening. Thank you very much. And I pray that God will protect you and your family as you take the next step into a future that is so bright.
Yeah. Can I say just one thing, though?
Sure.
Just one thing. You did score a goal, though, in hockey. He did score. He did score for Excelsior. Yeah, when he played hockey. So before he actually started to run for Excelsior, you remember the hockey team and he did score. So yeah.
All right. So it's on record now. You can't take it back. Thank you very much, Sean. And may God continue to bless and keep you safe. Thank you all for watching. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and do so. As I said before, that we are different than everybody else. We will make sure that we provide good quality content. Next week, before we close out the series, we have Tyson Gay, who is going to make his appearance. And we are going to go deep into the mind of Tyson Gay next week, Sunday at 7:40. I hope you can share it, because this will be one of the first interview that Tyson is doing that is going to address how one can become a champion based on the way they think. So again, you don't want to miss this. This one is going to be epic. I look forward to seeing you all. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. If you find the content to be worthwhile, please go ahead and share. Thanks again for coming, and may God continue to bless and keep you all safe.